Evening, this is Times Now. My name is Pranesh. After Times Now sustained campaign, viewers demanding accountability, Air India's alleged flasher has been arrested. But can the airlines get away scot-free? That's the question. Remember, in a complaint, the elderly lady had stated that after Shankar Mishra urinated and flashed her, the crew tried to cover up the assault. She alleged that the crew asked her to return to a damp, urine-soaked seat and even tried to force her to settle the issue. In fact, Times Now is the only channel to get you the testimony of the eyewitness, a man who was sitting next to Shankar Mishra and saw everything as it happened. He has corroborated the claims of the victim. After Shankar's arrest, the Delhi police are now probing the cover-up by the airline. The pilots and cabin crew have been questioned by the police. Cornered, Air India, after 43 days of the cringeworthy incident, finally show-caused and de-rostered 4 cabin crew and 1 pilot, but this is not clearly enough. Times Now confronted the crew as they came for interrogation by the Delhi police, but they had no answers to our direct questions.
Sir, anything regarding the entire incident?
No. Sir, what will you be asked? Are you the co-pilot?
Sir,
Are you the co-pilot? Were you apprised of the matter?
Did you or the crew member? Sir, what exactly? So, sir, you guys didn't fulfill your duty. You didn't ensure the safety and comfort of the...
Sir, you also vetoed this thing that she wanted to move to another seat. You did not allow her.
Sir, anything you want to say? Are you the co-pilot or the crew?
Under fire from the Delhi police, the DGCA, National Women's Panel, Air India's CEO, finally apologized, attempted a course correction. In a statement, he stated that suffered due to condemnable acts of others. We regret and we are pained about these experiences. Acknowledge matter could be handled better. And they have also taken action. 4 cabin crew, 1 pilot, show caused, de-rostered. But the outrage is about the callousness shown by the airline. Now, before I open this up to our guest joining us and before we hear from you, the viewer, here is what the Civil Aviation Minister, Jyotiraditya Scindia, has said. He has promised swift action against the airline.
जो उसमें जो कार्रवाई हो रही है वो कार्रवाई समाप्त होते ही उसका एक्शन भी तीव्र गति से लिया जाएगा।
मेरा का स्वारंभ देरी से हो रहा है क्या कुछ कारण
देरी से नहीं हो रहा।
Now let's open this up. Captain Amit Singh, founder of Safety Matters Foundation, Sarosh Damania, who has been with us talking about this over the last few days, is an aviation lawyer. Neetu Shukla, the former Kingfisher employee, is also on the panel to put this in context. Now, Captain Amit Singh, I remember that we had this conversation 3 days ago, sir, and you said that what has happened is shocking, but what is more appalling is the response of the crew.
Audio is not clear.
Okay, we'll try and fix that line with Captain Amit Singh. But what has come out today is really shocking. The eyewitness in the case, and we will play out what he has told us. The eyewitness has told us that he saw everything. He alerted the cabin crew. He told them that, look, this man is drinking too much, better be alert. But even after everything happened to the elderly lady, the crew, including the pilot, tried to enforce a compromise. Now, this is a clear violation of the guidelines that have been laid out. The guidelines are clear. But we'll talk about it one by one. Listen to what the eyewitness said.
The incident happened. It happened post-lunch. The reason I was upset was a lot of standard operating procedures was not followed. I understand the business class was full, but there were 4 empty seats in the first. But they could not take a call to give her a fresh seat. They kept blanket on her seat, which was smelling of urine, and they sprayed. And close to after 2 hours, they gave her a crew seat when one of the crew finished resting. See, I didn't feel he came drunk on board, but he had 4 stiff drinks over like maybe a 45 minutes. Lunch, and when in the process of conversation, you could say that he was incoherent. So that's why I kind of gently alerted the crew. She's a very soft-spoken lady. She's a very decent lady, and she was traumatized. So she was not one of those person who was shouting or doing that. And partly that is why it did not become a big tamasha in the flight.
Absolutely.
Because I was angry, and I was angry because nobody took the accountability.
Absolutely.
And in this flight, the chief air hostess or the commander should have taken the call, and should have taken her away from the business class, and would never let her interact with him. And everybody knew no action was taken.
Everybody knew, but no action was taken by the crew. Now, while we are trying to fix that line with Captain Amit Singh, our viewers are calling us. Sunil is joining us from Hyderabad. There we have Radhika holding on the line from Mangaluru. I will also go to Mr. Chakrabarti, and then Mr. Ravi Shankar is also with us. But let's start with Mr. Sunil. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now.
Yeah, good evening. While the act itself is despicable, deplorable, and whatever words I can use it to the extreme. But the callousness of the crew beats me. Air India, which is trying to revive itself and which is now taken over by their original owners, should have had the crew of Air India should have the basic decency to ensure that this lady was shifted to the first class. Point number one. Point number two, the ground staff should have been alerted to the trauma that she has undergone on board, to make sure that she is given the right kind of treatment on ground, and also probably escort her all the way to the house. This is not the way to treat a passenger who's traveling business class. If this is the fate of a passenger traveling business class, then I wonder what the airline would do to a normal, ordinary passenger traveling in economy class. And this is a complete bungling by the crew. Of course, the act itself is absolutely deplorable.
I understand your sentiment completely, sir, but I just want to add, regardless of the, the class or the cabin involved, the crew should have been more sensitive. That's the least they could have done. Let me bring in Radhika, who is joining us from Mangaluru. Good evening, ma'am. Go ahead. You're on Times Now.
Yes, see, I have been telling you time and again, please name and shame the VVIP who covered for this man. If he is punished, no other VIP will dare to interfere in a legal process, because the name of the airline is gone. Tatas hold high business principles, so it's really disappointing.
Okay. Neetu Shukla, before I bring in other viewers who are with us, what is your understanding of this? I mean, have you ever come across a situation like this?
No, nothing as dastardly as someone urinating on someone, obviously. I think this was the first time I've heard of someone urinating on someone. What is really shocking is that the witness letter was buried too. If there is somebody who's an eyewitness and who has made a statement, it's shocking that even that could have been hidden, because there is no reason to hide this sort of an act done by another passenger. Why were the crew covering up for this passenger? I mean, there's no need to feel sorry for someone who's done what he's done. And worse still is the statement by the lawyers and the family. The cover-up extends to everybody. I don't know why is everybody taking up for this man, because he doesn't deserve sympathy after what has happened to him. I can understand if I want to sympathize with his wife and child who had nothing to do with it, who will now be stigmatized by it for the rest of their lives. But this man, it's sad that so many people run to cover up a man who doesn't act like this. So that itself to me is inexplicable, and I can't understand for the life of me why did everyone turn to cover it up? And secondly, why wasn't the lady treated in a more humane manner? How could the crew expect her to confront this man and talk to him? You don't make a person talk to somebody who's committed a crime against them. And for the captain to continue with his crew rest in first class and not give a seat to this lady, I mean, it's shocking. Worse still, the letter was written to the chairman the very next day. So do we not hold him accountable too? or does he go scot-free because of his position? Because if the letter is written personally to the chairman of Tata, what is his accountability?
No, what's more shocking, Ms. Shukla, is the inaction by the airline. What is this de-rostering of the crew, Captain Amit Singh?
Exactly.
Is this punishment enough? What message are we trying to send? I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, derostering is not a punishment. Derostering is basically till the time investigation or preliminary investigation is completed, the crew is available for investigation and they do not perform their duties on board. So it is not a punishment. Punishment would come only after an investigation happens. After a preliminary investigation, show cause notice is served, their reply is received. So that process has to be that once that culminates, then only a punishment or administrative action can be awarded. This is just only to facilitate the investigation and not utilize them for any duties. So that is the purpose basically.
But this is serving no purpose, and let's hear from our viewers. They're all incensed, outraged by the inaction of the airline. S.L. Chakravarti is now joining us. Sir, good evening. Thank you for holding on to that line. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I appreciate Air India of Tata Group. I have only one suggestion for the CEO of Air India. If this is the type of behavior from crew, he should provide free raincoats to all the women who are now going to board Air India. I hope he will at least provide a raincoat so that this type of action does not happen again, and the raincoat can be taken back when the ladies disembark. I hope at least the CEO will do that.
No, I understand.
Any action on the crew.
I understand, sir. I understand. People are angry because of this insensitive and most callous behavior by the airline crew. Thank you, Mr. Chakrabarti. Ravi Shankar is now joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now. Mr. Ravi Shankar, I think we've lost that line. Gopinath is now joining us from Chennai. Sir, good evening.
Good evening. See, the couple of days the CEO was mentioning that it is a too complicated case, not as simple as it is made out. What is too complicated now? Can you explain now? See, one of the co-passengers has given a written complaint and they have not acted on it. The CEO has completely failed in his duties now. It is totally exposed. The failure of these airlines is totally exposed now. And one more thing, I am also pained by the defense of the accused father. The father, being a senior person, should not come to the rescue of his son's act.
Right.
That's what I wanted to make it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ravi Shankar is joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now. Okay, we have a problem in that line. Ramesh is now joining us from Dombivli. Sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my suggestion is that we should boycott Air India for some time to teach them a lesson. And the staff of Air India who were traveling in the plane, including pilots, should immediately be dismissed from service.
Dismiss
for
them?
This cover-up.
I understand. Dismiss them, says Mr. Ramesh.
There is very much rage in Maharashtra about this.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing your views with us. Mr. Chittaranjan is joining us from Delhi. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now.
Good evening. Hi. Good evening to everybody. My only submission is that this spoiled brat, pardon my language, should be debarred not for a month or so. Means his next all traveling activity should be linked to his Aadhaar, and he should be like something like red cornered, pan India. And similarly, this airline's crew needs to be there has to be some action on the airline. I don't know whether the rules permit us, but even this action was not happened in history. So every case teachers knew this thing.
So you want an exemplary action taken so that this is never repeated, that this works as a deterrent. Point taken. Harpreet Singh is now joining us. Good evening. You're on Times Now.
Punished. The passenger is punished. And this is very, very disrespectful for an old lady. So please take action on the crew.
Thank you. Thank you for connecting, sharing your thoughts. Mayur is on the line. He's joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. I have only 2 points to make in this particular incident. See, as far as airline industry is concerned, they are service sector. I think DGCA, should give them freedom to file cases against the customers, because they are in duality, in terms of how to act on a customer. I think first DGCA should give rights to all the crew members that, okay, you can file a complaint, FIR, whosoever, even if it is a small incident.
Right.
Second is, see, Tata has, taken up the Air India with lots and lots of liability, which is a good thing actually, for the country as well. This is one incident, which is reported, as of now. I know for Air India what kind of shitty service, I am sorry to use the word, but what kind of services they used to give in the past. It is just one incident, we need to, support Tata and ensure that Tata also responds back to, in a positive way for this particular incident. These are the 2 points I would like to make.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing what you think should be done. Mr. K. Rajendran is now joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Muralidharan calling from Chennai.
Yes, Mr. Muralidharan, please go on, sir.
Yeah, this punishment for the passenger is not enough. For another 2 years, he should be totally stopped from flying.
Right.
He should not be allowed, number one. Number two, the Air India crew also should be taken, because in any flight, in anything happens, they are the persons who are immediately have to take action. But in this case, it seems to be after so many press highlights only the action seems to be have been taken. But anyhow, I feel very sorry for this happening in Tata Air India. But anyhow, the crew also should be taken into account.
Thank you, Mr. Muralidharan. Sarosh, the reason we are, inviting our viewers to speak to us, because you then get a sense of the kind of outrage this case has triggered. But look at the callousness that continues from the airline. No action against the crew so far. Sarosh?
Yeah. So as far as the action has to be taken, of course, Air India has been very slow and very belatedly now they are taking action. This is just nothing but corporate cover-up. They are trying to cover up their flaws, trying to cover up their wrongdoings, what they have done. This inquiry, what we are hearing of today against suspension of the captain and the crew, should have been done the next day of the flight when the complaint was received. It is not that the complaint was not received and the complaint was received late. That is after when they received the complaint, they have taken immediate action. So, of course, first and foremost, there was absolute non-following of law and order situation on the flight by the crew and the captain, first of all. There is civil aviation requirement which mandates that the victim and the perpetrator has to be isolated in case of any incident on flight, which of course we see in this case, they have absolutely blatantly failed to follow the procedure which is laid down and which they are supposed to be trained off. The captain, of course, has inhumanly also acted and not even changing the seat. Apart from that, there is a basic process, basic protocol to be followed as per law. That has also not been followed. Of course, and coming back when the flight came back, landed on ground also, the perpetrator was let go of the aircraft scot-free. They should have immediately handed him over to the police. Today, the delay in investigation is not because of the delay of the police arresting the accused, but it is because of the negligence of Air India in handing over the person at that point of time, which they should have done as per law. They just tried to cover up. I don't know why they are doing it for, or they just didn't want to get into the legal hassles, or they thought legal is complicated, let's not get into it. let's sort out the matters on our own and let's go ahead with it. Thereafter, of course, about the accused also, after the shameful conduct, thereafter the father comes out with a statement, they gave me alcohol, I don't know anything about it.
No, but Sarosh, you see forget the father for a moment. What is the government doing about this? If the airline is not taking action, can the DGCA or the Civil Aviation Ministry keep quiet?
No, the DGCA should swing into action. Now today also what we are seeing is show cause notices being given to reply within 15 days, within 20 days to the crew. Now Air India doing their own investigation. The DGCA is just waiting for the outcome of the investigation. Then thereafter they are going to act. So the Air India will take 30 days time to investigate. Thereafter the DGCA will begin with their investigation. So this is just nothing but
this is red tape. This is, playing with sentiments of people and not caring about their sentiments, isn't it, Neetu Shukla? But let me hear from the viewers again. Shankar is now joining us from Chennai. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now. Go ahead.
Good evening, Pranesh. I'm calling from Chennai.
Yes, sir.
What I want to say is, after all this has been said and done about the passenger, the co-passengers, the airline, etc., etc., I have just 2 points to say. One, this kind of treatment of the consumer and the customer in this country is pretty common across, and whether it is business or whether it is a judiciary or whether it is a police, it is one and all the same across the country and across all such government agencies. That is point number one. Number two is, I'm going further and saying that in case this woman had decided to bobbytize him in the aircraft, what would have been the reaction? Then who would be considered the criminal and why, etc., etc. Because bobbytizing has happened once in life. This is the just desserts for the guy.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shankar, for sharing your thoughts. Sunil is now joining us from Hyderabad. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now.
Good evening to the panel. This discussion has been going on for a few days. It is a no-brainer when you look at certain things. Some time back, you had this girl who had acted in a film, and she said this man was scratching her back with the thumb of his foot, which a gymnast also could not do. By the time the plane landed, the guy was arrested. He was put behind bars. He didn't even get a bail. He has gone through a mental trauma. And in this case, this guy just walks off. I'm telling you, it's a no-brainer that somebody helped him in the crew. Senior person. And that is the pilot here. It's very clear. There are certain things you don't want to go by the law. There's a simple logic to it, and the crew is trained to handle such situations. I'm very surprised, and shame on the management. I didn't expect this from the Tatas, that 40 days have passed and it is the media which has taken up the issue. And who is this guy? There are hundreds and thousands of VPs like this lying everywhere. He just walked. That means he's known somebody to someone personally. That is why it has been done. Shame. And, it is not that barring him from flying for 1 month. He should be barred for lifetime. All airlines. The crew who was there, the senior, I'm not talking of the junior crew, should also be not allowed. They should all be sacked and not allowed. And shame on the co-passengers also, let me tell you. Because, somebody taking a leak on somebody and doing like this and nobody reacts. Otherwise, we are very happy with the mobiles and go around, taking pictures and this and that. Nobody took that. It's shame on the co-passengers also. And I hear
and when a co-passenger actually intervened, and we've spoken to him, sir, we'll play out that interview, in about 5 minutes from now. He's the only eyewitness, and he alerted the crew. And what's more shocking, sir, is that even after he wrote it down, in black and white, gave them a piece of paper, his version was suppressed till he spoke to Times Now. The airline did nothing about it. So this just explains you the mindset that was at play here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Mr. N.K. Lodhi is now joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now. Please go ahead.
Thank you. As a former head of HR in corporates both in India and in the Middle East, I would like to focus on the unacceptable error of judgment and lapse of, in service of the crew, starting with the pilot. And one of the speakers had sort of given a vague justification saying that they have been deroasted. What is this deroasting? This is hogwash. There is a procedure in law, and I'm an expert in that. There is a procedure in law in disciplinary proceedings called suspension pending inquiry. Why aren't the pilot and the cabin crew suspended pending inquiry? So that the inquiry is done, and then you take action, sacking or whatever. But this deroasting is again going soft, and Air India is continuing to handle this with kid gloves. It should suspend all the staff, including the pilot, pending inquiry. This deroasting is just not enough.
This is an eyewash. Thank you, Mr. Lodhi, for sharing your thoughts. Babu Rao is joining us from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening. You're on Times Now.
Good evening, and thank you for providing me this opportunity. I have heard almost all speaking and echoing the same sentiments. I have only 3 points to tell. One is the 41 days delay. And the high standards of Air India, I expect the CEO to come on Times or whichever channel and apologize on behalf of his people. I will give you one instance of how Air India was. 1998, I traveled in Air India. Due to some errors of the seat allocation, my seats were occupied by somebody. You know what they did? 1998, they transferred me to first class. I traveled to USA first class. And I will remember that for life. And that is what I had expected when Tatas took over. I am surprised, not just surprised, shocked by a couple of things. Even on the street, if there is an accident, people rush with their mobiles and take videos and make a hangama on the social media next day. Why is this kept out from social media, from channels, from media for 41 days? Can we not stand up to such atrocities and even shame those people on the same day and expect that he should have been handed over to the police on arrival? What is happening? And somebody said very rightly, this is not just about airlines. I think we as a country lack about customer focus. We experience it almost on a daily basis in some form or the other. There is so much of follow-up for sales, but once the sales is done, that is the end of the story. So we have got plenty to learn, and even if you open one channel for customer failure of satisfaction, you will be filling it up 24/7, I'll guarantee you.
Thank
this
you.
is not acceptable by Tata standard. The
by
CEO
any standards.
should have been
Absolutely, you've said it.
And apologize.
This is not acceptable by any standards and should not be acceptable at all. Mr. Gautam is now joining us from Bhubaneswar. Sir, good evening.
Good evening. Actually, I want to tell only one point. The entire crew members, the staff and pilot, they should be given refresher training. Their mindset should be changed by the management. They should be they should get a refresher training how to handle customers or in this sort of awkward situation.
Sure. Thank you. Better training should help going forward. Okay. K. Rajendran is back with us on the line from Bengaluru. Sir, good evening.
See, I empathize these two people, our Air India crew. I empathize with Air India and Air India crew. See, and I don't accept the behavior of the passenger is unacceptable. He has to be given as per the law, whatever is the law. They have already done halfway. They should get a justice. But my suggestion is that the present crew members, forget about this present crew members of Air India, the present crew members of all airlines, this should be a wake-up call.
Right.
This should be a wake-up call.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for connecting, sharing your thoughts. Mr. Shantamurthy is now joining us from Chennai. Sir, good evening.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
I'm Mrs. Shanta Murthy.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, it's appalling, disgraceful behavior by that person who messed up that lady's clothes. He urinated on her. And it is so disgusting. And what is more, that lady is definitely from a very good family. That's why her family gave money back at this man and wanted him arrested. And even more horrifying is the behavior of Air India crew and the captain. How can you treat a senior citizen, an old lady, in this manner, or any passenger who's been so disgraced by another man, another passenger? You don't even give her a decent place to sit when there was one. This is appalling. This Air India staff, but even I feel the CEO should be sacked, Mr. Chandrasekhar and the other man.
Right.
Oh, this is really, really appalling. They have shamed Air India to the whole world. The crew, the captain, the captain, Mr. Chandrasekhar and others for not taking action. The whole world must be laughing at us.
Heads must roll. Thank you, Miss Shanta Murthy, for joining us, sharing your thoughts. Well said, ma'am. Lakshman is now joining us from Gandhinagar. Then I have a question for Captain Singh. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening to you and to the panel. I have 2 points. Number one is, what were the co-passengers doing when that very idiot was urinating on that woman? Couldn't they get up and start a hulla till the captain came in saying what is going on and try to stop that mess? It's so shameful, so shameful. I'm so angry with the captain. He is the commander of the aircraft. He should have the authority. He does have the authority to let this lady sit in a first class, as far as I'm concerned, and get that guy arrested when he landed. Or even if they were still far away from landing, he could have landed at any airport and got this idiot arrested.
Right.
I'm extremely disappointed with Air India, and I was trying to push for them. Now I don't feel like pushing for India at all.
Let's see what action is taken against the callous crew, sir. Thank you for connecting, sharing your thoughts. Captain Singh, what would you tell the airline? What is your message to the DGCA?
Well, to the airline first, the airline needs to tender an apology. What statement Air India has issued is just regret. Regret is basically sidestepping the guilt. Apology means that, yes, we have acknowledged something has happened. We are taking it seriously. We are acting on it. We empathize with you. Regret is just basically stepping aside and saying we are sad that something happened. So there is no apology tendered till date. If you look at the regulations with DGCA involved, the Indian Aircraft Rules 1937, Rule 24 is very clear, prohibition of consumption of intoxicating and psychoactive substances. No person on board will board an aircraft or be in an aircraft in an intoxicated state. So what is an intoxicated state? Is basically a state in which the person is not able to behave properly, the speech or his balance or coordination. And what are the steps to prevent these? In the operations manual of Air India, the steps given are to limit the consumption of liquor to basically 12 ounces of beer, 1 full glass of wine or champagne, and 1 miniature bottle of liquor.
No, but
and
Captain
then you
Singh,
have
I'm sorry, I'm